Stop letting your mind be the enemy of your destiny. Every single day, millions of people wake up with brilliant ideas, powerful dreams, and deep desires, but they die in their own thoughts before they ever take a single step. You've been thinking about that move, that project, that call for weeks, maybe years, but overthinking has paralyzed your power. You've built a prison in your own head, locked yourself inside it, and called it being prepared. It's time to break out. It's time to stop rehearsing failure and start practicing courage. Because the truth is, clarity doesn't come before action. It comes through action. Life doesn't reward thought, it rewards movement. The clock is ticking, and every moment you hesitate, someone else is taking the opportunity that was meant for you. So today isn't just another day to think about changing. It's the day you take control back from your fears. This is the moment you silence the noise, trust your gut, and move, because the cost of waiting is far greater than the fear of failing. Your mind is a battlefield, and every single day you're fighting a war between your potential and your paralysis. That inner voice that tells you to wait, to think a little longer, to make sure everything's perfect before you move. That voice isn't protecting you, it's controlling you. Overthinking disguises itself as intelligence, but it's really fear in a tuxedo. It convinces you that hesitation is safety, when in reality, hesitation is slow death. The longer you stay in your head, the more momentum you lose, and the more power you give to doubt. The human brain is designed for survival, not success. Men and women both experience this trap, but it often shows up differently. For many men, overthinking becomes analysis, an obsession with making the right move to avoid failure or judgment. For women, it often becomes emotional forecasting, replaying scenarios, questioning worth, and worrying about outcomes before they even happen. But in both cases, the result is the same: motion stops, confidence fades, and the dream that once felt alive begins to feel impossible. The war is not out there, it's in here, inside your own head. The reason so many people never break free from this mental prison is because they've mistaken thinking for progress. You can spend hours, days, even years talking about your goals, journaling about them, vision boarding them, but none of it matters until your body moves. The mind is meant to strategize, but it's the body that must execute. Overthinking keeps you in a loop of mental rehearsal, and that loop feels productive, but it's just procrastination in disguise. The truth is, the only way to quiet the noise in your head is to take decisive action. The second you move, the fog starts to clear, because action creates clarity. Every time you delay action, you train your mind to doubt itself. You build neural pathways of hesitation, and hesitation becomes your default setting. But every time you take a step, even a small one, you retrain your brain to trust your instincts. This is where the real shift happens. When you act, you interrupt fear. When you move, you send a message to your nervous system that says, I'm in control. The mind stops overanalyzing when it realizes you're not waiting for perfect conditions anymore. You're creating them through movement. Men and women both crave certainty, but life doesn't reward certainty. It rewards courage. You can't think your way into confidence. You earn it through repetition, through taking risks, through doing the uncomfortable thing again and again until it becomes natural. The overthinker lives in the illusion of safety, but the action taker lives in the reality of growth. Once you understand that, you stop waiting to feel ready and start realizing that readiness is built in motion. The moment you take control of your thoughts and direct them toward action, you stop being a prisoner of your mind and start becoming the commander of your destiny. Perfection is the silent killer of progress. The invisible chain that keeps so many people stuck in the same place year after year. It's that voice that whispers, wait until it's perfect before you start the business, post the content, make the move, or share your idea. It convinces you that you're just being careful, just being thorough, but in reality, it's fear wearing a mask. The fear of being judged, the fear of failing, the fear of not being enough. Perfection doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you. It's not a standard of excellence, it's a shield against vulnerability. And the cost of that shield is your potential. The obsession with perfection is not about the task itself, it's about control. For many men, it's the control of their image, the desire to never appear weak, uncertain, or unprepared. They chase perfection as a way to avoid embarrassment, to maintain dominance, to feel significant. For many women, perfection often becomes a standard of worth. The belief that to be loved, accepted, or respected, they must be flawless in every role as professionals, partners, friends, and even in appearance. Both end up in the same trap, exhausted, anxious, and unsatisfied, because perfection is a moving target that can never be hit. The tragedy of perfectionism is that it disguises itself as ambition. You tell yourself you're aiming high, that you just want to do your best, but deep down, you know it's not about excellence. It's about avoidance. It's about avoiding the discomfort of imperfection, the sting of criticism, and the pain of rejection. But the truth is, progress is born from imperfection. Every master was once messy. Every success story began with uncertainty. The difference between the person who succeeds and the one who doesn't isn't talent or luck. It's that one took action before they felt ready. When you chase perfection, you delay growth. You wait for everything to align before taking the first step. But life doesn't align for those who wait. It aligns for those who move. Every step forward, no matter how clumsy, gives you feedback. Feedback gives you learning, and learning gives you power. But perfectionists never get that feedback because they never step into the arena. They stay behind the curtain, polishing what no one will ever see, waiting for a moment that will never come. The longer you wait, the louder your doubts become, and the quieter your confidence gets. Perfection feeds on comparison. You scroll, you watch, you measure yourself against people who are already years ahead in their journey, forgetting that they too started imperfectly. Men compare their achievements, women compare their appearance and acceptance. But what they don't see is the hundreds of failures, rejections, and awkward beginnings behind every perfect result. Perfection tells you that others have something you don't, but in truth, the only thing they have is momentum. They started messy, learned fast, and kept going. Progress requires courage, not flawlessness. It takes courage to launch before you're ready, to speak before you're certain, To show up without the guarantee of approval. It's the courage to fail publicly and still move forward privately. The person who embraces imperfection becomes unstoppable because they no longer waste energy on what others think. They understand that failure isn't fatal. It's formative. Every mistake is a message. Every flaw a teacher. Every setback a setup for strength. The secret that perfectionists don't realize is that excellence is the child of imperfection. True mastery is not built by getting it right every time, but by being willing to get it wrong often enough to learn what works. Perfection isolates you from life's lessons. Progress invites you into them. The moment you let go of the illusion of perfect timing, perfect words, or perfect plans, you free yourself to grow faster than ever before. Because in the end, perfection is just fear pretending to be virtue. And fear loses its power the second you take action. Despite it, emotion follows motion. And that's one of the most powerful truths you'll ever understand about human behavior. Most people live their lives waiting to feel ready, waiting for the motivation to appear before they act. They think once they feel right, then they'll start. But emotion doesn't create action. Action creates emotion. The fastest way to change your state is to change your movement. You can think your way into confidence, you move your way into it. The body is the ignition switch for the mind, and once you learn to flip it, your entire life begins to shift. We've all had moments where we didn't feel like doing something, working out, speaking up, taking a risk, but the moment we did it anyway, the energy appeared. That's not coincidence, it's biology. The nervous system responds to motion. When you move your body with purpose, you change your chemistry. You shift from hesitation to action, from fear to flow. The problem is, most people wait for certainty before they move, not realizing that certainty is the reward of motion, not the prerequisite. The more you act, the more confident you feel, and the more confident you feel, the more action you take. It's a cycle that starts with movement, not motivation. For men, this principle often shows up in the battle between drive and doubt. They feel the pressure to perform, to lead, to achieve. But when fear creeps in, they retreat into overthinking, convincing themselves that they're being logical. But logic without motion is paralysis. The masculine energy thrives on progress, on breaking through resistance. When a man moves physically decisively, his state changes. His confidence rises not because he knows everything will work out, but because he acts as if it will. The act itself creates momentum, and momentum kills fear faster than thought ever could. For women, emotion follows motion in a different but equally powerful way. Many women have been conditioned to feel first, to align emotionally before they act, but that conditioning often leads to hesitation. The internal dialogue becomes, I'll do it when I feel more confident, or I'll take the step when it feels right. But feelings are unreliable guides. When a woman takes action before her emotions catch up, she reconnects with her power. She stops waiting for validation and begins to generate her own energy. Movement isn't just physical, it's emotional liberation. It's saying, I may not feel ready, but I'm ready enough to start. Your physiology determines your psychology. You can't sit still, slouch, breathe shallow, and expect to feel strong or certain. The body sends signals to the brain, and the brain interprets them as emotion. That's why when you move with power, standing tall, breathing deeply, taking decisive action, your mind starts to believe you're in control. The opposite is also true when you hesitate, when you shrink, when you freeze. Your brain assumes you're in danger. That's when fear amplifies, doubt multiplies, and anxiety takes over. But the moment you move even just one strong, intentional step, you interrupt that pattern instantly. Every breakthrough begins with movement. When you can't think your way out of fear, move your body. When your mind tells you you're stuck, take one small action. Send the message, make the call, go for the run, write the first line. That single motion creates momentum, and momentum is the antidote to overthinking. It's impossible to spiral in fear while you're in full motion. Your energy expands, your confidence grows, and suddenly what felt impossible becomes achievable. Emotion always follows motion, not the other way around. The people who achieve the most in life are not the ones who always feel inspired. They're the ones who act even when they don't. They understand that waiting for the right feeling is a trap. They move first, and the feeling of certainty catches up later. The moment you take control of your body, you take control of your mind. And when your mind and body align in motion, hesitation disappears and power returns. Fear is not a stop sign, it's a signal to step up. Most people misunderstand fear. They think it's a warning to retreat, a cue to slow down, to stay safe, to protect themselves from what might go wrong. But fear was never meant to stop you. It was designed to awaken you. It's the body's way of saying something important is about to happen. Fear appears when you're standing at the edge of growth, when you're about to expand beyond your comfort zone. The problem isn't fear itself, it's the meaning you attach to it. You've been trained to see fear as danger, when in truth, fear is direction. It's your internal compass pointing toward the next level of your life. Every great transformation begins with fear. Before you start something new, before you take a leap, before you risk failure or rejection, fear always shows up first. It's not there to punish you, it's there to prepare you. But most people freeze at that moment. They wait for the fear to go away before they move, not realizing that fear only fades when you take action. Fear feeds on an action. The longer you sit with it, the stronger it grows. But the second you move, you break its rhythm. You show your brain that fear doesn't control you, you control the response. Men often experience fear through the lens of pride and performance. They fear failure because it feels like an attack on their identity, on their worth as providers, achievers, and leaders. They hide fear behind logic, convincing themselves they're waiting for the right time, when in truth, they're protecting their ego. But what they don't realize is that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's mastery over it. When a man faces fear head on, when he moves despite the shaking hands or racing heart, he reclaims his strength. His confidence grows not because the fear is gone, but because he's proven to himself that he can handle it. Fear becomes fuel, and that fuel turns into unstoppable momentum. For women, fear often disguises itself as self-doubt. It whispers through the cracks of comparison and expectation, the fear of not being enough, of not being accepted, of being judged for standing out. Society has conditioned many women to play small, to second-guess themselves before they speak, to tone down their power in the name of being liked. But when a woman learns to reinterpret fear as a signal to rise, she stops apologizing for her strength. She starts using that fear as energy, to express, to lead, to create, to stand in her truth. The same emotion that once kept her silent becomes the fire that makes her seen. The body's reaction to fear is simple. It prepares you to move. Your heart races, your breath quickens, your muscles tense, your physiology is screaming, do something, but instead of moving, most people freeze. They misread that signal as danger when it's actually power trying to be unleashed. The fastest way to break that freeze is to act. Move your body, speak the truth, take the step, anything that interrupts the pattern. The moment you do, the energy that once felt like fear transforms into focus, intensity, and clarity. You're no longer trapped in the thought of fear, you're moving through it. Fear will always visit you before a breakthrough. It shows up before every major decision, every bold move, every meaningful pursuit. It's life's way of testing your readiness, not for perfection, but for courage. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise is simple. They don't wait for fear to leave, they move with it. They see fear as feedback, as proof that what they're doing matters. When you start treating fear as a call to action instead of a command to stop, you reclaim your power. Fear loses its grip the moment you step forward because movement dissolves the illusion that you're in danger. Decisions shape destiny, and the speed of your decisions determines the speed of your growth. Most people spend their lives stuck in hesitation, waiting for a sign, waiting for certainty, waiting for the right moment. But life doesn't wait. Every second you hesitate, you lose momentum, and momentum is everything. The truth is, success doesn't come from knowing all the answers. It comes from deciding fast and learning faster. When you make a decision, you activate power. When you delay, you drain it. Clarity doesn't appear before you act. It's created through action. The mind loves safety, and indecision feels safe because it keeps you from committing. But that safety is an illusion. Indecision is the slowest form of self-sabotage. It kills dreams quietly. You think you're buying time, but what you're really doing is feeding fear. The longer you wait to decide, the louder your doubts become. Every major breakthrough begins with a single, often imperfect decision. The people who move fast aren't reckless. They're confident that whatever happens, they'll adapt. They trust their ability to learn, adjust, and grow faster than their mistakes can stop them. For men, decision-making often ties directly to identity. They're taught that the wrong decision defines them, that mistakes make them weak, so they hesitate to move until they're absolutely sure. But that hesitation costs them leadership. Strength doesn't come from always being right. It comes from taking responsibility for every move you make. When a man decides quickly, he sends a message to his brain and to everyone around him that he's in command. Even if he's wrong, he learns faster, recalibrates, and builds confidence through repetition. The fastest way to destroy fear is through decisive action, because fear feeds on uncertainty and dies in the presence of direction. For women, indecision often hides behind perfectionism. The pressure to get everything just right, to meet expectations, to avoid criticism, it creates paralysis. Many women have been conditioned to overthink, to seek approval before taking action, to weigh every outcome before stepping forward. But power doesn't come from predicting every result. It comes from trusting your intuition and moving before you feel ready. When a woman decides quickly, she shifts from validation to authority. She realizes that growth doesn't come from waiting to feel worthy. It comes from proving worth through motion. Each decision becomes an act of courage, a declaration that her voice, her choices, and her instincts matter. The ability to decide fast is not about impulse. It's about training your nervous system to act before fear can take over. The longer you linger in thought, the more resistance builds. Your brain starts running simulations of failure, embarrassment, and loss, convincing you that inaction is safety. But when you move quickly, you interrupt that pattern. You bypass the overthinking loop and enter a state of flow. The body responds with energy, the mind sharpens, and opportunities begin to align. Action is a magnet for momentum. Every decision teaches you something. There's no failure, only feedback. You either get what you wanted or you get the lesson you needed. The faster you decide, the faster you collect lessons, and the faster you evolve. That's why those who act quickly outpace those who overthink, not because they make fewer mistakes, but because they make them sooner and grow from them faster. Waiting for perfect conditions is like waiting for the wind to stop before you sail. It never happens. You learn to steer while you move. Immediate action builds confidence because it forces you to face reality instead of hiding from it. Each decision creates motion, and motion breeds mastery. You become sharper, stronger, more decisive with every move you make. The world rewards those who move with urgency, not because they always get it right, but because they have the courage to start when others hesitate. The power of immediate action lies in momentum, the unstoppable force that turns small, fast decisions into massive transformation. Discipline is the bridge between intention and execution, and it's the force that silences doubt before it ever has a chance to speak. Doubt doesn't disappear on its own. It's destroyed through disciplined action. Every time you follow through on what you said you'd do, even when you don't feel like it, you build self-trust. That trust becomes confidence, and confidence kills hesitation. The people who win in life aren't the ones who never doubt themselves. They're the ones who move anyway. Discipline is the muscle that makes movement automatic, even when fear, fatigue, or uncertainty are screaming in your ear. Momentum doesn't come from motivation, it comes from consistency. You can't wait to feel ready to act because readiness is built through repetition. When you act consistently, your mind begins to understand that hesitation is no longer an option. You train your nervous system to associate action with progress instead of anxiety. But when you give in to doubt, even once, you reinforce hesitation. Every broken promise to yourself weakens your identity. Every act of discipline strengthens it. Discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect in motion. It's saying, I'm in control, not my excuses. For men, discipline often carries a deeper psychological meaning. It represents structure, purpose, and mastery. When a man lacks discipline, he drifts, and drifting breeds doubt. The masculine energy needs challenge to stay alive. It needs a target, a mission, something to push against. When that energy is undirected, it turns inward and becomes frustration or insecurity. Discipline gives it focus. It transforms emotion and emotion, potential into power. Every time a man chooses discipline over distraction, he rewires his brain for strength. He stops reacting to life and starts creating it. For women, discipline is often misinterpreted as rigidity or harshness, but in truth, it's one of the purest forms of empowerment. Society often teaches women to be accommodating, to put others' needs first, to feel guilty for prioritizing their own growth. But discipline reclaims that power. It says, my goals matter, my time matters, and my dreams deserve structure. When a woman practices discipline, she's not restricting herself, she's protecting her energy. She learns that consistency is not masculine or feminine, it's universal. Discipline gives her freedom because it frees her from dependence on fleeting emotions and external validation. Doubt thrives in the space between decision and action. The moment you hesitate, your brain floods with what-ifs, fears, and imagined outcomes. But discipline doesn't negotiate with those voices, it moves. It doesn't ask for permission, it acts on principle. When you live by discipline, you stop being ruled by your mood and start being ruled by your mission. That shift is everything. Because once you act, even in uncertainty, momentum takes over. And momentum is the antidote to fear. It's hard to doubt yourself when you're too busy executing. The truth is, most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they lack consistency. They start strong, but the moment it gets uncomfortable, they stop. Discipline is what keeps you moving when the excitement fades. It's what keeps you on track when your emotions fluctuate. The mind will always find a reason to pause, but the disciplined person doesn't wait for the perfect conditions. They create progress through persistence. They understand that every small act of consistency compounds into unstoppable momentum. Doubt is loud in stillness, but silent in movement. The faster you move, the quieter your fears become. That's why discipline is so powerful. It keeps you in motion long enough for confidence to catch up. Every repetition, every early morning, every hard choice made when it would have been easier to quit stacks proof that you are stronger than hesitation. And that proof becomes identity. You start to see yourself not as someone who hopes to follow through, as someone who always does. That's how discipline destroys doubt, not with words, but with relentless action.